What if you woke up tomorrow with $2 million in your accounts? Would that be enough to walk away from work at 55 and never look back? On paper, $2 million sounds like a huge number, and for some people it is. But here's the truth most people don't hear. Retiring early with $2 million can either set you up for 30 plus years of freedom or 30 years of stress, depending on a few key factors. I've seen both sides. I've seen people retire with $2 million and live comfortably into their 90s. I've also seen people with the same amount run into trouble within 10 years because they didn't plan for what comes next. The number alone doesn't tell the whole story, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack in this video. Hi, I'm Scott Beasley, Certified Financial Planner at Gateway Financial Partners. For many people, hitting $2 million feels like the finish line. But if you're thinking about retiring at 55, there are 5 key questions you need to answer first before you decide if that number will actually last. If you'd like to run the numbers for your own situation, book a call with me using the link in the description below. Let's break them down. 1. How much will you spend each year? This is the foundation of the whole conversation. Two people can have the exact same $2 million and their outcomes will be completely different depending on how much they spend. If you're planning to live on $70,000 a year, that $2 million can stretch a long way. But if your lifestyle needs $140,000 a year, the math changes very quickly. Think about everything: day-to-day bills, travel and hobbies, helping out kids or grandkids, one-time projects like home renovations, healthcare costs. I once worked with a couple who thought their spending was about $80,000 per year. When we tracked everything, including gifts, vacations, taxes, it was closer to $110,000 per year. That extra $30,000 per year would have cut 8 years off of their retirement plan. The rule of thumb people talk about is a 4% withdrawal rate. On $2 million, that's about $80,000 a year. But retiring at 55 is a much longer time horizon than normal. You may need to start closer to 3 or 3.5% in those early years so you don't run out. 2. How long do you need it to last? If you retire at 55, you could easily need your money to last for 35 or 40 years. That's a very different calculation than retiring at 65. Longevity is a gift, but it creates a big challenge. You're planning for a retirement that's as long, or even longer, than your working career. This means your portfolio not only needs to generate income, it also has to keep growing enough to stay ahead of inflation. If you're 55 today and in good health, there's a decent chance one of you in a couple will live into your early 90s. That's a 35-year retirement, and you need to plan for that worst case scenario. 3. Where will your income come from before Social Security or pensions? This is a big one that a lot of people forget. If you stop working at 55, there's usually a 7 to 10 year gap before Social Security starts. And even if you plan to delay your benefits to get a larger monthly check, that gap gets even longer. During those years, your entire income has to come from your savings. This can put a lot of pressure on your portfolio right when you need it to be the most resilient. For example, let's say you need $80,000 per year and plan to wait until 67 for Social Security. That's 12 years of $80,000, almost $1 million, before benefits even begin. If you don't plan for this, you can burn through a huge chunk of your $2 million before your guaranteed income ever kicks in. 4. What's your plan for taxes and healthcare? These two costs catch almost everyone by surprise. Healthcare. If you retire at 55, you're 10 years away from Medicare. You'll need to cover private insurance, and that can easily run $1,000 to $2,000 per month for a couple. That's $12,000 to $24,000 a year before you even talk about other expenses. Taxes. A lot of people forget that withdrawals from traditional retirement accounts, like 401ks and traditional IRAs, are taxable as income. So a $100,000 withdrawal is not $100,000 of spending money. If all your savings are in tax-deferred accounts, you'll need a tax strategy. When to draw from which account, whether Roth conversions make sense in those early years, how to keep yourself from being pushed into higher tax brackets unnecessarily. A poor tax strategy can shrink a $2 million portfolio faster than most people expect. 5. How will you handle market volatility? This is the silent risk that ruins a lot of early retirements. When you're working, a market downturn is frustrating, but you have time to recover. When you're retired and pulling money out, it's a whole different story. If you retire at 55 and the market drops 20% in your first 2 years, and you keep pulling money out to live on, you're selling the investments when they're down. This is called sequence risk of returns. It's not just about your average return, it's about when those returns happen. That's why early retirees often hold 2 to 3 years of spending in cash, very conservative investments. It gives them breathing room so they're not forced to sell stocks in a bad year. So, is $2 million at 55 enough to retire? The honest answer is It depends. For some people, it's more than enough. For others, it's a starting point that requires careful planning. It all comes down to the 5 questions we just walked through. How much are you going to spend each year? How long do you need that money to last? How will you bridge the income gap before Social Security or pensions kick in? What's your plan for taxes and healthcare costs? And how will you protect yourself from market volatility in those early years? If you can answer those 5 questions with a clear plan, then $2 million at 55 can absolutely work. But if any of those questions feel uncertain, the worst thing you can do is assume that $2 million automatically makes you safe. I've seen it go both ways. People with a plan live comfortably for 35 years, and people without a plan end up feeling anxious just 8 to 10 years in. So let me ask you, if you had $2 million today, would you feel confident to retire at 55? Or would you rather keep working a few more years to be safe? If you found this helpful, here's the next steps. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos where we break down retirement planning into plain English. And if you're wondering whether your own numbers add up, reach out. Link is in the description below. Having a second set of eyes on your plan can give you the clarity and confidence to know if you're ready or what steps to take before you are. Thanks for watching. Be smart about those 5 questions and you'll be in a much better position to make 55 and $2 million work for you.